The recruiting process can be so overwhelming and confusing because you don't know what to do and you don't know where to start.
Please do not think that this system is rigged. It is not.
I think so many student athletes think that you can just join your club team, go to some tournaments, put some film up, send a couple emails, and you'll get recruited. And it's not like that anymore. The level of competition has just increased across the board and across the United States. So everyone's better. Every team's getting better. Athletes have to learn to be much more proactive and have a much more detailed plan of action to accomplish their goals. Develop an action plan, create your target list of schools, and that is constantly shifting. So every 6 months, you have to always be reevaluating and assessing. Are you getting better as an athlete, or have you sort of plateaued? Like, if you're getting better, and depending on your grad year, you might now be able to look at higher level schools. So the key to this is establishing a well-defined plan for your athlete to make sure they're getting the right exposure at the right time. We always want to have each athlete find the right school, right athlete, right fit. My name is Ann Bomleny, and I am the founder of a company called Get Recruited. I guess I kind of think the biggest misconception or misunderstanding is I think so many student athletes think that you can just join your club team, go to some tournaments, put some film up, send a couple emails, and you'll get recruited. And it's not like that anymore. So essentially what's happened in the evolution of the sport, so many more athletes are playing, so many more, the level of competition has just increased across the board and across the United States. So everyone's better. Every team's getting better. So basically, I would tell you, I think athletes have to learn to be much more proactive and have a much more detailed plan of action to accomplish their goals depending where they are in the process and what they want to do. So tonight, talk about like what I do, how that affects recruiting. Hi, everybody. My name is Ann Bomleny, and I am the founder of a company called Get Recruited. And essential quick overview is originally I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I grew up, I played lacrosse my whole life. I played in college. After college, I lived like Boston, Chicago, LA, Fort Lauderdale, ended up back in Orlando. And this was, when the youth programs in Orlando were really just getting started. So it even goes like 15 years ago. And people had heard that I had played, so they asked me to come in and help coach. So one thing led to another. So before I knew it, I was like running the rec program. Then the next thing is I was training and coaching these kids, and they were becoming all really good. So what happened was I was developing these athletes that became into like a really strong club program. And then the club program became into like a national elite team. And then what ended up happening after that was I was getting all these kids signed to college. And I am a mom. I have 3 kids of my own. Yes, my kids all played lacrosse like in high school and a couple in college. But as we were going through the process of, developing this club and getting all these kids signed, it was so much that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do all this. Like, I can't coach the top team. I can't work. I can't be a mom. I can't do all of it. So I was like, something's got to give. So I brought someone else in to run the business side of the club, and I decided to step out because it was way too stressful. And so I decided that I was just going to do something else. And they were like, no, you're the one who has all the recruiting contacts. Like, you're the one who knows all the college coaches. You really need to stay involved with the program. Like, you're the one who knows how to do all this. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, I'll try it. So one thing led to another. And first I just used to do the recruiting for this one group at this one club. And then literally it started evolving, and people would say to me, oh, could you help me with my son? Or could you help me with my daughter? So it's literally all just been referrals and word of mouth, and me knowing people like Kai and, people in the lacrosse industry who will say, oh my gosh, yes, no, you should talk to Ann Bomleny. She has been working with athletes for quite a while now and helping them find the right school that's the right fit for them. So basically, over the last 6-7 years, I've created a program that's called Get Recruited. And I've created like a 9-step program that takes each student athlete through the full recruiting process. So we do regularly scheduled calls. We do weekly recruiting calls where I get everyone on the call. We do personalized action plans for each athlete, but it's really just helping each student athlete build their list of college, build their list of schools, have like a detailed list of goals and targets, and then we create this action plan that helps them get to those. But we're always coming from it with the philosophy that it's like the right school that's the right fit for the right athlete. So you're going to hear me talk a little bit about that tonight. So let me see if I can share my screen with you guys. So I wanted to just kind of bring everyone up to speed. So right now in the men's lacrosse world, what's happening is there's 78 Division I programs, there's 77 Division II programs, there's 245 Division III programs, there's 33 NAIA. And I was going to say, like, the numbers are fluid and adjust yearly as the sport's growing. So, for example, this year, Iona is bringing on a men's Division I program that's starting this spring. So it's really exciting as the sport continues to grow for both men and women. And it creates more opportunities for student athletes who are interested in playing at the next level. So essentially, what each athlete needs to do is basically figure out, do they want to do this? Do they want to play in college lacrosse? Because if you want to do it, you actually need to make a plan. Whether I help you or you do it on your own, which is completely fine, you need to be organized. Okay, so anyway, so my philosophy with Get Recruited is that we always want to have each athlete find the right school, right athlete, right fit. So the key to this is establishing a well-defined plan for your athlete to make sure they're getting the right exposure at the right time. So a lot of times, so with the male lacrosse players that I work with, we basically sit down, we create your list of schools. Then we figure out, okay, are these the best fit for you? Okay. And obviously at that point, I've spoken with your high school coach or your club coach or Kai and gotten feedback on where you are as an athlete. But then we also talk to your family, because everyone has to be involved in this process, because it's a huge commitment of time to make this happen if you actually want to play at a super high level. Now, if you want to just play at like a school in Florida, which is also a great option, but that's also competitive because so many kids in the Northeast want to come to Florida. So you have to be super proactive about checking, okay, are they having prospect camps? Do I need to just show up at the prospect camp? Or do I need to, send some communication ahead of time? What does my film look like? So that's why I'm always saying, like, you want to make sure that you're targeting the right events that are the right events for you as the athlete. One of the things that I'm going to talk a little bit about as we go through this PowerPoint is communication and communication timelines. So one of the things that is helping a lot of student athletes sort of hit the ground running is if you have someone such as myself or someone else who's working with you, or if you have a really great club coach or club director who can manage this, you want to make sure that they're advocating for you ahead of each event and as well as after. So they can't talk to the student athlete until that summer, right before your junior year. So it's very helpful if you have, like, I reach out to college coaches before a student athlete's even attending those camps to let them know they're coming so that their name is highlighted and they're actually looking for them. And then post camp, I actually follow up again with the college coach to get feedback, because that helps the student athlete know what they need to work on. But then also to help those student athletes understand, okay, if I wasn't good enough or they're not interested in me, okay, what are some other schools I need to look at? So then we have to pivot, because you wouldn't waste your money and go back to their camp again. Or if they really like you, we have to then consider, okay, is that a school we really like? Did we like the coaching style? Did we like the team culture? Do we like the location? There's a whole list we go through. And then we also decide, okay, do we need to be back at their camp again? And again, so much of that is determined by your grad year and where you are in the process. So what we do in Get Recruited is we help each athlete create like a resume. So that's just a comprehensive approach of everything that you're doing to market yourself. So it's everything in terms of like all your communication, your emails. We read them, we give you templates, we tell you what they need to say. We monitor all your social media. College coaches are looking at all of that now, and it's super important for you. And that's one thing for each of the boys that's on this video tonight. Like, do think about what you're putting out there, because it is a statement that's a reflection of yourself. And I do recommend that everyone have a lacrosse specific Instagram. So if you are a male lacrosse player, I think that you should have a lacrosse specific Instagram where you're going to post specific videos of like your training, your development, but you're also going to post like any accolades you're receiving. And then you're also going to post film, because that's another way that we reach out to college coaches. I also would check in with athletes and say that I think it's really important if they belong to the IMLCA Sports Recruits platform. That's literally, there are lots of platforms out there, but I can speak to the fact that that's the best platform that most college coaches are in now or are moving to, because it's the most helpful to college coaches, but it's also the most helpful to the student athlete in monitoring and tracking their process. The recruiting process can be so overwhelming and confusing because you don't know what to do and you don't know where to start. So what we try to do is help every student athlete, develop an action plan, create your target list of schools. And that is constantly shifting. So every 6 months, you have to kind of always be reevaluating and assessing. Are you getting better as an athlete, or have you sort of plateaued? Like if you're getting better, and depending on your grad year, you might now be able to look at higher level schools. One of the things that I do find, that's so much of the feedback I get, is down here at the bottom. I wrote eliminates parental and family conflicts and minimizes stress, because one of the things that I'm always hearing from families is we certainly help in that endeavor, because parents are constantly having to remind their son, did you do this? Did you send your email? Did you check on that? Did you put your film together, et cetera, et cetera? Well, we take over all of that so that we're managing that with the student athlete. And then if the student athlete's not doing it, then we reach out to the parents. But it's typically us kind of bugging and nudging the student athlete so that they know exactly what they need to be doing through the process. One of the things I was also going to say is there's some key points for grad years. So everyone definitely needs to know this. So college coaches cannot speak with you until the summer before your junior year of high school. And it's also, as they're doing that, there's definitely a process of developing relationships and communications earlier than that, by going to specific showcases and camps where they can speak to you on a field. They're never going to talk to you about recruiting and, oh, you should come to our school. That's illegal. They're not allowed to do that. However, it's always a great opportunity for you to get to sort of sell yourself and get to know these coaches. Plus, I always think that's a great benefit for you, the student athlete, to determine, do you like this coach? Do you like their style? Is that someone that you want to coach you for 4 years? So those are all factors that come into play when we sit down and we start making your list of schools. Okay. Having said that, I want to back up and just explain. So Division I cannot speak with you until after September 1st, going into your junior year. Division II can speak with you earlier that summer, starting June 15th. So it's the summer after your sophomore year, before your junior year. Division II can communicate with you, where you can be emailing them. They can respond. If you're interested in any of the military academies, they can contact you July 1. And then Division 3 is technically the least restrictive. They can actually talk to you much earlier than that. However, they typically tend to wait. Division 3 is a great place to play. It is super competitive, and most of those athletes are on the caliber of a Division 1 program. And a lot of Division 3 programs can actually beat the D1 programs, but it's typically students who are looking for a higher academic process that's also sort of more of a better balance with their lacrosse program. But also, I would say this, you have to have good grades to be able to play D3. That's a key part of it. Okay, so one of the things that we can do to help you if you decide that you need help with this is we help you navigate the recruiting landscape. We'll help you, we'll watch your film, we'll help you do your athletic resume, we facilitate player promotion, we'll talk about feedback and assessments, we leverage your social media exposure, we put a huge importance and emphasis on your academic and athletic balance. We do college research guidance and communication with coaches. We assist in negotiating offers, and we also support you through the application process and college preparation. However, it's really important, I think, for student athletes to feel like they have an edge in their strategy and their action plan and their ability to be evaluated. So one of the things I just wanted to encourage each of you was, if you want to play in college, the earlier you make that decision, the better. Lacrosse is one of the fastest growing sports, and it can definitely be a key factor for helping athletes get into a school of their choice that perhaps maybe they would not have been able to get into academically. But I also want to emphasize that academics is still an important part of the process, because when people talk about scholarships, okay, and I'll just touch on funding really briefly. Division 3 typically can do academic funding depending on the school, okay? Division 1 and Division 2 can provide athletic and academic scholarships. However, some student athletes will say to me, oh my gosh, you can get so much more money at Division 1. That's actually not always true. Not every Division 1 program is fully funded. And then for Division 2, a lot of times you can actually get as much money, if not more, than a Division 1 program. Again, depending on the program, depending if they're fully funded, depending if they can stack academic and athletic. So essentially, I guess I would just say to each of you, like, if you are interested in playing lacrosse in college, I encourage you to create a plan, actually sit down and like lay out a strategy for yourself as to how you want to accomplish this. And some of it also has to do with like not just deciding that you want to play in college, it's laying out all of the priorities around it. So here I'm talking about student athletes should definitely sit down and discuss with their family their priorities, their grad year, and what their level of focus and intent is on playing in college. So for example, right now, 2026s, a lot of 26s are actually already getting signed. Is it too late? Absolutely not. Are you open to a range of schools? Yes. Do you have good grades? Hopefully, yes. And then what you need to do is start to map out your list of schools. A lot of the top 20 D1s have already committed a fair number of their recruits at this point. However, like we said, there's 78 Division 1 programs, so there's still a lot. There's 245 Division 3, there's 77 D2. Like there's still there's a lot of schools. And you're going to have opportunities if you are able to kind of look at and make your list and include all three divisions. I think that's always my best advice to everyone, is to make sure that your plan and your list of schools is really comprehensive and really targeted. So for 26s, you're not too late, but you need to get moving, and you need to get moving now. You need to lay out a plan. You should already be in process, going to camps and showcases, having a plan for what tournaments you're going to be at, whether it's this fall, this winter, next summer. Do you have film? That's important. For 20s, 27s, and 28s, you're actually not too early to start. I think it's really important that you also make your plan and you begin to lay out the foundation, not only for skill development and key exposure, but targeting the right schools for you. You always need to make a decision when you're committing to a club program and then getting, yourself ready to commit to the process of working to get recruited to play in college. You have to look at everything and you need to discuss it with you and your family and your willingness to do the work, because it's not easy. If it was really easy, everyone would do it. But I absolutely think, as a former athlete and then as having worked with, at this juncture in my career, I've already signed over 210 athletes to Division I, II, and III schools. And I'm happy to say they're all successful and thriving. But part of that is getting the athlete to understand the training they need to put forth, the skill sets in terms of athletics. They have to be willing to do film and get it done. And they also need to really focus on academics, because the better grades you have, the better opportunities you have. And then you have to get your family to commit to the process, because there is, depending especially on the level of schools that you want to play at, you need to be at some showcases and tournaments and college camps in order to get the right exposure and to be seen. So we understand that this process is extremely stressful and overwhelming, and it can be, but I also think we can help you to guide you and manage you through it. So that's kind of just a quick overview of where we are, but I'm happy to jump in and answer anyone's specific questions if they have them. So I can stop sharing and drop that back to you. And then you can let me know if anybody's sent you a message or if anybody has questions. I'm happy to answer anything.
One of the questions I got is going back to the Instagram. Do players need to have a specific Instagram for each of the sports they play? So we do have some double sport athletes and players who are playing football and soccer.
No, you could actually combine that. And a lot of colleges like when you're a multi-sport athlete. So you can definitely, it's a great question. You can definitely combine that. So I would just make the Instagram, if it's, give me an example. Is it like lacrosse and soccer or football and?
Lacrosse and football for this athlete, and then they have a sister who I believe is lacrosse and soccer.
Okay. So no, you can combine both. And just pick one of the sports if you're going to use that, or just really do your name and your grad year and use that as your sport Instagram. And then I would definitely focus and highlight both sports on there, especially depending on the season. And put clips, from showcases and camps, but also do, you can put film up there, things like that. But I also think it's great to have your social media be representative of the type of athlete you have. So you also always want to have team pictures from, them and their teammates. And, also having fun and enjoying, being part of the sport and part of the program. That's all part of it too. And then I have a lot of athletes I work with who, if they're an All-American or, they were in the showcase best in class or things like that. So all of that, I have them highlight that as well. And a lot of athletes or a lot of parents also will sometimes help with those Instagram accounts. So typically a lot of the athletes will send me a picture and they'll say, what should I tag this as, or what should I say, etc. And I'll help them come up with what they should say. Or a lot of times they'll say, should I post this? And there are certain times I'll say, no, don't post that. Or get that picture down. That's not appropriate. So yeah, it's just a matter of, making sure that it's a comprehensive approach so that college coaches are seeing you represent yourself as the athlete you want them to see.
That's great. Another question coming in as far as showcases, can you talk a little bit more about when players should start going to showcases and how to navigate the showcase realm? Like, how do you choose a good one? It's worth the money and the trip versus
Yeah.
one that's it's not.
Well, and I'm assuming I'm speaking mainly to athletes in Florida, right?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that is always hard, and I understand this, I work with a large percentage of athletes out of Florida, and one of the things that's really hard is every time we're going to go to a showcase or a camp, we have to get on an airplane a lot of times. So it does make the cost prohibitive and become a factor. So I think it's important for you to include that in the process. And what I mean by that is like, so if you're already setting up your tournament schedule for the summer, we want to help you identify what are the best camps and showcases that you can attend that are adjacent to those tournaments, either on the front end or the back end. So you can just maybe get there a few days early or extend your trip a couple days so that you can sort of maximize that trip and get the most out of it. 27s should definitely be going to several showcases each season. So I would say at least 1 to 2 showcases. And then if they're interested in playing at like the Ivy League level or at a top 15 or 20 level school, then they definitely need to be starting to get in front of those college coaches, really like end of your freshman year, beginning of your sophomore year, and definitely like that winter going into that summer. So even like a year ahead before your junior year, because you want to start getting your name on their radar, especially being from Florida where they may not know who you are. So you kind of need to be in front of them multiple times for them to start to recognize you and realize who you are, so that you're more memorable to them when they're seeing your communication and your film. 26s, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish and then I'll chime in.
Okay. So I would say 27 should definitely need to be at approximately 2 showcases in the fall and then 2 or 3 in the summer. But then I also would love it if that summer they were able to hit an additional 2 or 3 specific college camps. So this is the summer before your junior year. Then you have opportunities that winter to also hit some specific camps and some larger or higher academic showcases. And I think that's great if you're targeting those types of schools. Then, but I also think, as for example, this year, like the 26s, this is their big recruiting year, but they also still need to, next summer, they should also be looking at, you don't want to wait till it's too late. So even though you're communicating with Division I, you also want to be communicating to Division II and Division III schools as well, because you want to start getting your name in front of them and your film and getting on their radar, definitely going into your junior year. Even if you're looking at Division III, that's what I'm trying to say. So it's a combination of the number of showcases you should be doing and specific college targeted camps.
And then is 28s too early? Should you be hitting this in your sophomore year?
No, 28 should be going to some showcases. They don't need to be going to specific college camps yet, but they should definitely be hitting some showcases.
I have had some parents ask me questions. One is, if you're a freshman, your skills aren't super developed, maybe you're still growing, can you make a bad impression? As much as you can make a good impression, can you make a bad impression? So would you want to wait, or is it better just to get out there? And then number 2, do I need to get on tournament teams? Like, do I need to be on a Sweet Lax? Do I need to be on these, or can I do showcase and prospect camps in lieu of being on those teams?
So yes, no, and yes. So, so it's like, so, if you're still growing and developing and you know that your family tends to grow late and you're really not going to develop physically and be stronger until closer to your end of sophomore year, you don't want to target as many high level showcases. You could still go to one or two that are more like instructional and developmental, because that is true. You don't want to give a negative impression. However, if you are an athlete that, that's why, just FYI, not that everyone cares or needs to know, but like boys recruiting is actually runs later than girls recruiting. So, because they know that the male athlete is developing later. So, showcases, I would say it's like on a case by case basis. So I would actually want to, usually I would talk to the parent and we would define the program and the plan for each athlete based on where they were, and how they were growing and developing, kind of thing. So it really will depend on your specific student athlete and the schools they're targeting and the timeline of your development, is what I would say, in terms of how many showcases, how many camps. Because I could back off of it and say everything's specific to each athlete, which it is, but I also know tonight I'm trying to give some kind of general guidelines to some families who I don't know your specific athletes. So I'm trying to kind of give all of you some help by saying sort of certain timelines are, you would ideally like to be at 2 or 3 showcases your sophomore and junior years. But if you're not ready, then you could wait and go that summer before your junior year, but make sure that you're ready hopefully by then. Now, can you still develop later and still make it onto a college team? Absolutely. But like you're already seeing for right now, like the 26s, like Virginia's taking kids left and right now, and Maryland. So like the top 20 D1s are pulling in their kids pretty fast over the last 3 weeks. So if there are student athletes who are like, oh, I wanted to make that team, but I'm not going to be able to show them till next summer, there might be an opportunity for 1 or 2 spots, but the majority of those high level teams will be gone. However, there's still a lot of teams and every team has a really big roster. So there will be opportunities to showcase and to be seen at those schools. It will just, the numbers change. So I always talk about this whole process like a funnel. So it's like you have this whole list of schools. And as you start working through the process, you're trying to get in front of these schools. So as you're going through the schools, you're going to get lots of yeses and nos. And as you're working through it, the funnel starts to close. But the funnel closing also happens to match the recruiting process. So go the schools, but so also goes the timeline and the money and the spots. So everything typically tends to shake out together. And then where you are in your timeline, will be like the schools and the spots that remain that are probably the best fit for you. So that's why I'm always saying to every student athlete I work with, make sure that your comprehensive approach isn't just the lacrosse side of it. So like there are some really great lacrosse athletes I'll get, but their GPA is like a 3.2. Well, that makes it much harder to shop them than if they have a GPA of a 3.7. or a 3.8. Plus, they're going to get more money if it's a school that'll stack, because you're going to get a portion of academic and athletic. And then what was the second part of your question, Kai?
The teams. So do I need to play on a national team, or can I do showcases and prospects in lieu of that? And then how do coaches look at jumping from club to club? One, getting exposure, but also is there like a loyalty factor that they look at?
Yes. Okay. So I do think it helps. So this is where it gets tricky. And this is the difficult part of navigating this process as a student athlete. So I understand that. So does it help you to, for example, get on a Sweet Lax team, or I don't know, True National, Florida Crabs or whatever? Does it help to get on that early and secure your spot and maintain it all the way through? Yes. And I think there's like a loyalty factor maybe from the club in terms of then you've kind of locked up the spot and then other people might not be able to, I know other kids might try to get the spot and they'll say, no, sorry, it's already filled by the kid who's played it the last 2 years. So that's sort of one part of it. But I also think there's always opportunities that do become available. So if you can't get into any of those spots or things like that, I don't think it hurts for you to actually reach out to some of these other clubs and see up north when you're going up to tournaments and showcases and see if they have any guest spots available. Or sometimes you can have your club coach do that, where if there's opportunities, also sometimes see if they're ever putting together a house team for some of the tournaments. It just kind of depends, but that can give you some options for additional exposure as well.
And putting that on your resume is okay. Like if the coach sees that you have 4 or 5 clubs you've played with, is he gonna see you as competent?
Not if you explain it. So I think if you, because you would write like one thing I always advocate for too is if you're submitting that information in your email, you would also explain like, hi, I realize that my list of clubs shows that I've played for 3 clubs, but let me explain for you. I'm from Florida. So I only have, my local Florida club only plays in Florida tournaments. So this is what I'm scheduled for. However, for me to have opportunities to showcase in front of you and schools in the Northeast, I also need to guest play for some other clubs. And they're actually fine with that. Now, when you had asked me earlier a little bit about like club hopping, it really just depends what the reason is and how we sell it or how we explain it. So sometimes I've had clubs that have, changed locations or changed practice locations, or, they're putting out a national team and now they're not. They're just going to put out a regional team. So there's oftentimes a lot of good reasons why you can explain why you had to shift clubs, but it's definitely not something. So like guest playing is different from like club hopping. So you don't want to definitely have something that's showing 10 different clubs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the final part of that is, do you need to be on those teams? Can I replace, if I don't want to do all the travel and commitment to that, can I just do showcases and prospects and still get by?
So you're saying, can I not participate in those external tournaments, just do showcases and camps and still get picked up?
Yes, or just only do like state level tournaments. So like to put us on the spot, Otters is going to do state level tournaments. We're not playing up north this year.
But that's okay, because I would say kids could play like in your events, and then if they needed to try to guest play in 1 or 2 events up north, they could do that. But then they could also hit 2 or 3 either showcases / college camps. But what I'm trying, I know, when I knew you were going to have me come on, like there's already showcases, through January and into the summer that are already taking, applications and registrations and things like that. So I kind of wanted to just make sure I was explaining to everyone tonight, like, make a plan and get on it. Like if you sit and wait, spots sell out and then you can't get in. So I think you have to be super proactive in your approach to being recruited. And I would say, can you do it? Yes, but I think it's, if you're a student athlete that's like, oh, I want to play at University of Maryland, right? And you just go to the Maryland camp and then, or maybe you just go to the Maryland camp twice. it's really hard because those camps are huge. I'm just saying it's really hard to stand out there unless you have someone advocating for you, or you have, people writing and calling those coaches on your behalf to get them to pay attention to you. That's where it comes in helpful if you're also showcasing on a national team where they're actually seeing you play both. And I know, Kai, do you let kids play both?
Yes. So for us, there's no restriction to just playing for us. I do encourage kids to go play others. So that's our policy here. Yeah.
No, and I think that's excellent, and I think that's well suited, to athletes. So I think that's great.
Another question for you. Reclassing. I know we're using a lot of your time here, so I appreciate you.
That's okay. I have like 15 minutes left till I have to get on another Zoom, but that's okay.
All right, well, we'll keep it quick here. As far as reclassing, we are hearing a lot more about reclassing.
Yeah.
How are college coaches looking at reclasses?
They're typically fine with it. I don't love it, but I'm seeing a lot more of it. Because especially for a lot of those athletes that are developing later, or maybe haven't had their growth spurt, things like that, I would say for the college coach standpoint, it's not really a problem. And if kids are going to reclass, I think the earlier they do it, the better too. Like if you're doing it like freshman or sophomore year, that's much easier than if you're trying to do it junior year. I just think that's hard, and then that gets messy and things get communicated incorrectly and crisscrossed. I sometimes think that's easier than redshirting. But a lot of times also it's really hard because a lot of kids don't want to stay at the same high school 2 years in a row and do the same classes. So I get that part of it too. So it's really got to be a dedicated athlete that's like, okay, this is really what I want to do, and I'm going to put the time and the effort because I want to play at this level, and I'm pretty much willing to do anything it takes.
I'm getting people are texting me questions here. Boarding schools versus local school.
Depends where you want to play. So if you want to play in the Ivies, or you want to go top athletic, like a Princeton or Dartmouth, I think I think those boarding schools can be helpful, especially if you're going to reclassify or things like that. Okay. Local schools, I think it's fine. We have a little bit of an uphill battle in Florida because our high school level rankings are not what they are compared to the schools in the Northeast and in sort of the hotbeds. However, it can be done. You need to start earlier. So, you're ideally hoping that everything matches up, that like your skill set's where it needs to be, and you're already competing at a high level, sort of as like a sophomore, really kind of like going into your sophomore year, and you're ready to be at some key winter events. There's like a really great showcase coming up in Naples in January. So, that's super high academic. So I would say there's some great camps and showcases that student athletes should definitely be participating in if those are the schools that they think that they can compete at, and also have the grades and the academics to match up for those. And then I think in other words, it doesn't hurt them being from a local Florida school. Now, if you are looking to play at a school like at a college in Florida, I think what can help you by being here is just getting out to as many of those prospect camps and showcases for those specific schools in Florida as at on a regular basis, so they get to know you and they know who you are. But also you want to make sure that either myself or someone like me or a club coach is advocating for you so that you're getting direct feedback, so that you're not wasting your money going to the same camp over and over again if they think you're a great kid, but you're not what they're looking for. So you also want to really sort of target your camps and showcases to match that. So meaning that like initially you're going to have this list of schools and you're going to have this list of camps that you want to try to get to over the next 2 years potentially. And then as you start to work your way through that and we're getting feedback, we're able to help then pivot and adjust your list based on your skill set, the feedback you're getting, and then maybe you need to pivot in your list of schools and the direction you're targeting.
And thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and I definitely want you to come back. So I'll let you use some time before your next Zoom.
No, that's okay. It was really great. So if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Kai has my contact information. And I do want to say this though. I think that, and Kai, you should speak about this too, but just, I think playing college lacrosse is such a great endeavor and so worth it for every athlete. And I think when you come through the process and then we all somehow still end up tied back to lacrosse, giving back to the sport, that I think it's such a worthwhile endeavor. And I really do encourage athletes that love the sport to pursue the opportunity to play in college, because I think the rewards are endless.
I completely agree. And unfortunately, our Coach Mano, Coach Kenyon, Coach Bradley couldn't be on the call tonight because they're working or either in practice. But as the players are coming out to practices, I highly encourage you to ask them their experience. I mean, Coach Mano played at Maryland, and he didn't get picked up till I think after he graduated his senior year. So there's some great stories. And
that's important. Those matter because there are those slim opportunities that do also happen for kids.
Yeah, and Coach Kenyon played up at Carthage with one of the coaches I grew up with, and he had a phenomenal experience. Ended up coaching there as well after he graduated. So I think you talk to 10 different lacrosse players, you get 10 different experiences.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a big thing to know. But Ann, thank you so much for all of your time.
Absolutely.
I will be, so just so you guys know, I do call Ann and I get her feedback on showcases that I recommend for you. I'm still developing my list and my way of supporting you guys as a club coach. Ann has been a fantastic resource, and I often just encourage you guys to go to her for a lot of these questions that I can't answer, for these relationships that I don't have. But just so you know, we are working towards getting kids to these showcases in a way that's manageable for us. I do have connections up in Illinois with some great connections, and we'll get some more lists that are a little bit more close to home. And then the other side is the film side. A lot of parents come to me asking about film, about clips. We will be getting as much film as we possibly can at these Otters camps. I'm bringing the video camera out to our practices and then out to our tournaments. The kids can pull clips from that. I do highlight reels so that as soon as we get you guys enough clips, and I've been doing a lot this summer, as long as you have at least like 16 clips, you have about 2 minutes worth of film. That's like bare minimum. So if you're not already getting clips, start collecting those so we can put that into a highlight reel for you. And do you have any feedback on that?
I would just say, yeah, no, that's key. Minimum 2 minutes, maximum 4 minutes. And your first 10 clips should be your best. And then your last clip should be great too.
Yeah, so we are working to support you guys as much as we can, but this is a huge process. And to Ann's first point, I mean, really think hard about where your priorities are and is this right for you? And if so, we're going to do everything we can to help you get there. So
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I wish all of you the best of luck. And if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.